Howdy there. I want to make a video tutorial on how to export height maps, well, how to grab height maps from Battlefield 2142 and bring them into Blender. I think that this is supposed to work for like Battlefield 2 and a lot of the other classic Battlefield games as well, but I've only tried this map with 2142 and yeah, I guess I kind of got lucky during some parts of the process and I figured I'd share that knowledge. So this is the result right now. You can see that it's fairly low resolution, and this is about as far as I'm going to go with it. I'm not going to go as far as the detail maps or anything like that. I'm just going to show how to get the base color map and then as well as the height map, because the height map's the hard one to do. So I'll start off inside of my 2142 folder. So as you can see, Origin Games, Battlefield 2142 Deluxe, and then I have my mods folder, and then I have BF 2142. This tutorial video is also for me because I know I'll probably forget some parts of this process. But I want the height maps, so I'm gonna go to levels, and then I've been trying to get Suez Canal because I want to just use it for testing some things for my game. Of course, you know, like I wouldn't like be able to actually use this in the final build of the game or anything, but could be useful for reference and etc. Where the height maps are located, they're actually located in this server.zip. So I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this because I don't want to mess with the game files folder. And then I will go drop it inside this Suez Canal folder that I prepared earlier, and then I'll extract it. Then once that's extracted, I'll go into server, and you'll notice I have these raw files. Height map primary, D1, L1, L1, D1, L1, U1. So the primary is basically the playable area, and the rest of these are just kind of like extra areas outside of the boundaries. I'm honestly like not 100% sure what they're for. I mean, like, it's easy to guess, like to have extra area outside the bound, but this is actually only the primary height map, and the playable area is here. You actually have to fly pretty far inside of a flying vehicle to get out of bounds. I'm flying super fast in Blender, but I've gone as far as this bound, and I've probably flown like this far in a Doragon before, but like, yeah, you have to fly pretty hard and fast to get over to the actual secondary maps. So I'm just going to be doing a primary map for now. So let me go back there. So for now, I'll just grab the primary, and then I will go to height maps. Why not grab them all, right? I'll grab them all, but I'm only going to be running through for primary probably. So then I'll paste them inside of here. And then after that, I need something to open these raw files, and surprisingly, what I ended up using to open them, this was probably like the part that took me longest to figure out, because it's kind of hard to find out something that reliably opens the raw files. There's a whole bunch of like other like Battlefield specific tools, but they either like don't let you convert raw to PNG very easily, or they're just about resizing raws, or they're slow. But I found that surprisingly Unity was my best option for something like this. You can't see it right now, but I created a new project for asset ripping, and Unity's creating that project right now. So I'm gonna go pause the video and I'll come back when that's done creating the new project. Alright, so I'm here with my new project, and I believe the only package I'm going to need is the terrain tools package, though I might be mistaken. There might be another terrain thing that I need as well, but for now I'm just going to get terrain tools. And it looks like, yeah, that's still in preview, so what I'm going to want to do to get that to show up is I go to project settings, and then I have to go to the package manager, and then I have to enable preview packages, and then now it should show up. So I should be able to see terrain tools right here. This is the version as of right now, 3.0.2 preview.3, and they have some really cool tools there. And honestly, I don't like using Unity terrain tools itself because the terrain, well, I don't like using Unity terrain itself because the terrain often like causes a lot of extra draw calls, and honestly, I'd rather just work with mesh terrain in Blender, and that's what this process helps towards. I'm really appreciative for their terrain tools, though. Really great that you guys are about to see it anyways. So I'll just make a new scene because I don't want to do it in the sample scene and have to delete stuff. So you can tell I don't often make new scenes. I duplicate them and stuff. Height map processing, sure, whatever. So now that I have this, I'm going to create a terrain. Then I'm gonna, so I got this terrain here. Now I'm gonna click on the gear over here, and then I'm gonna choose import raw. And let me go find my height map folder. I'm gonna go copy the directory over there, paste it up here, and then I'm gonna pull the primary. And with 2142 maps, if the let's take a look at this. Sorry. So you'll want to check the size of the map. If it's around 2 megabytes, then it's 1024 by 1024 is the resolution for the X and Z. So I'm gonna do 1024, 1024. But if it's something closer to like, I can't remember, either 4 or 8 megabytes, then you're gonna want to go with 2048 by 2048. But I think the biggest hint here is that the resolution already adjusts the image over here. So it says 1025, so you basically just have to do that -1, at least as far as I've seen so far. And then bit 16 for the primary terrain. So I'll go ahead and I'll hit import on that. And of course, the usual URP thing is going on. And also, of course, you're going to have to do your own sort of adjustments for the overall scaling of the height. But overall, it's there. The height information is there. It's actually reading the raw file. And I was like super impressed by this. I was just like, wow, Unity. I mean, I would have assumed that DICE did something to the raw files that made like proprietary or like added some header or something like that is what I was hearing. But it seems like Unity will just read it from the get-go. We're not going to worry about the height scaling for now because all we need Unity to do is export this. We can adjust the height scaling in our displacement map and whatever inside of Blender. So how I actually go and export the height map. So then, just to recap, I opened a raw file via Unity Terrain. I haven't used Terrain Toolkit yet, or Terrain Tools yet. This is just inside of Unity Terrain, hitting the gear, importing raw. Then I can go to Window, Terrain, and Terrain Toolbox. And that's actually what we imported from the package earlier. You can set the total terrain width, total terrain length. In my experience, bear in mind I've only done one of these so far. The size for each tile is 2048. So I'm gonna do it that way. And then, oh wait, no, this part isn't even important, my bad. I went through so many things earlier. That I've mixed up my workflows a little bit. So ignore that section right there. I don't want to edit this video, so. I'm just going to go to this Terrain Utilities tab. And then I'm going to go to Export Height Maps. And whichever terrain I have selected, it will export it. And it'll actually do it based off the name of it. So I'm going to call this Suez Main or something like that. Or Primary. What was it called in the file? Height map primary? I like keeping them the same. So heightmap primary.raw. So I'll just F2, copy that, and paste it here. So now it's called heightmap primary. I don't want it to be raw. I want it to export as a PNG. And oh, I guess the levels correction can happen here as well. I guess we can. It kind of looks like this is 2 times the size it's supposed to be, frankly, but I don't think I want to mess with the levels correction right now. I'd rather do that in Blender. I'm gonna go ahead and hit export heightmaps, and then that should be exported. So then it goes into this folder, assets heightmaps. So then assets heightmaps, I can show that in Explorer, and now I have that height map. I can use that in Blender now. So then let's go to Blender. I'll create a new scene. I'll just delete everything, why not? And then what I want to do now is I want to make a plane, and I know that it's going to be, I'll size it later. Let's just import the height map for now. So what we're going to need is a displacement modifier. So where is that? Displace. And then I'm going to click on new. And then I click on here so that I can go to the texture. Then I'll click on open. Then from the open, I will click on, now I gotta find it. Let me think, where was it? It was in my gene, then rips, Suez Canal, height maps. Oh no, that's wrong. Right, that's right. It's not in there, it's in my Unity folder, asset rip tools, assets height maps. So let's just copy that. Sorry, my brain's a little scrambled right now from trying to figure this all out. Just wanted to make a tutorial while it's fresh in my mind. I'll go click on that and you'll see nothing happens yet, and that's just because displacement map or displacement modifier works based off the geometry. I'm actually going to go and subdivide this. Well, I accidentally clicked solidify. In my experience, subdivide has like a limit of like 6, which I don't want to deal with that. So I'm actually just going to go into edit mode. Then I'm going to subdivide here. And I'm going to click 64. That's given me decent results in the past. And then as you can see, it has applied some of that. Then after that, I'll just do a subdivision surface after that. Then I can crank that up to like 2 or something. And if you want to deal with the faceting, you can go ahead and press F3 to do that search, and then you can shade smooth. So like I said, you're going to have to deal with adjusting the height yourself in general, but at least the information is there. Let me go and apply the rotation and scale. It should already be default, but we do want this to be accurate to the game size. So I'm gonna go and change it from 2 meters to 2048 by 2048. And it's gonna be big, so in order for you to see it properly, you'll have to go to view and then increase your view distance. And it looks like it's not applying very well because of the sheer size difference. So let me see if I could figure this out live. If I remember, I'll just crank up the strength of the displace modifier, and then I actually have to press SZ, and I think I usually am around like 2 or something. But yeah, you could modify this on your own later. I don't know why, but this displace modifier has a limit of 100. I think I've fiddled around with it. Oh wow, that looked weird. I believe if you fiddle around with it in the right way, you can make it stronger via here, but another option would be to just press SZ and then, or just alter the scale over here. So let's say I'll do 3 or something like that. 3 is a little drastic, honestly. Actually, I think 2 was decent. But how I go about actually sizing it correctly is I actually use the game models as size reference. So I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna pause the video, get my bearings, remember what I'm gonna do next. All right, so in order to better recognize what's going on here, we're gonna want to apply some color to this. We're gonna want the color map. So if I recall properly, I will just go into my battlefield folder, or actually I already did this. Let's see if I could find it. We went and we took this server zip, and earlier we moved it over to my rips folder. So my Suez Canal folder, this is where earlier we extracted the server.zip. And then, so the height maps are here. Sorry, bear with me for a second. I think I need the client.zip. So I'm gonna copy that over here and then I'm gonna extract it. So that's extracting. All right, it's extracted. Now I'll go into that client folder that I extracted, and then there's a folder that says color maps. And you'll notice there's a bunch of DDS files, and my computer can see them right now because I have the right thing installed. I have something called Dds Converter. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description to that. And I had to convert these into PNG. So I'm going to create a new folder. And then I'm going to say converted. Then I'll go grab this directory. That way when I hit add, I can go and copy and paste the directory. And then I'm only caring about the middle, like I said. I'm not caring about the surrounding secondary terrain. That stuff's just for decoration and only if people go out of bounds. So I'm actually only going to click on these ones that say TX00. You'll notice that they go in a grid, TX00X01, TX00X02, whereas these over here, they don't have that kind of row prefix over here. I think it's like actually a column prefix. TX00, if it says TX00, it's the first column, and then if it says TX01, second column, but you see this doesn't have column because these are just smaller files for the secondary terrains. Anyways, sorry, this stuff's kind of hard to explain for me, kind of live. I didn't put a script or anything, don't really got time for it. I'm gonna go select all of these. I know all these pertain to the main playable area, so then I'm gonna go ahead and hit open. And then it adds them all here, and I want to save it as a PNG, and I don't want to go right into the color maps folder. I know that my directory is going to be this, so let's go ahead and do it that way. And then hit convert. So it's going to run through and convert them into PNG. So this part is where it becomes a little bit of a pain. I'm sure someone can come up with a better way to do this, but this is just how I ended up doing it. I'm not sure if there's an automated way to put it in a grid and like put them all together. But let's take a look at these files real quick. If I right click and I hit properties, you'll see that they're each 512 by 512. And I know that there are, you see TX00. It goes as far as 7. So that's going to be 0 to 7, that's got to be 8. So let's go ahead, and I already know the answer, but we'll see 512 times 8. It's got to be 4096. So then that's the size I'm going to make it. I know it's a square as well, because there's a grid. So I'm going to hit new document, web, then I'm going to do that 4096 by 4096. and then I'll go ahead and create that. And inside of my converted folder, you'll see I have tx00. I can go ahead and I'll drag the tx00 in first. This is Affinity Designer. If you have like Photoshop or something, or Illustrator, you can use that too, but I just find it easiest to use here because yeah, it's what I have and I'd rather do it here instead of Affinity Photo. So then I can hit Align Center horizontally, and then I'll hit this to distribute them. And then I'll group them together and then put them here. And that's how I get my first column. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do it to the rest, tx01, x00 to up to 7. And I don't know if this will happen for you with whatever you use, but occasionally it'll get them out of order over here. So I just keep an eye on the right side and I make sure it goes from that 0 to 7. Sometimes 7 has ended up down at like reversed. It's ended up like right here or something like that before. But I'm not sure if that was just user error earlier or anything, but I find that if they stay in this order, it usually stays just right. I'm going to keep doing that. This will show you how to repeat the process. And I'm not going to worry about like putting them close together for now, because in the end I can just distribute those. You'll see what I mean. I know this is probably automatable. I don't know how to script in Designer or anything. So then you'll see it's starting to form a picture. Like when I was figuring this all out, it was really like trying to figure out a bunch of different puzzles and how Battlefield's engine is processing all of this. Because it's really split up in a rather unique way. Yeah, especially the whole thing with the sizing of the surrounding maps and tile maps, etc. Height maps. Well, whatever. So, yeah, gonna continue with this repetitive process. I guess I'll just pause and then I'll do the rest. So now I have all of these columns set up, and then I'm just gonna select all of them. I guess I can just hit Control A. You know what, I'm just gonna select all of them this way just in case. Make sure I'm selecting the groups and not just the individual elements. And then I'm gonna hit distribute them vertically, and then I'm gonna turn off auto distribute. And as you can see, it's formed the color map. Don't worry about these little grid in betweens. That's just the visualization that Designer does. But I can now hit export, and I'm gonna go export this PNG. Don't want to export it there for sure. Let's just say, let's put it in my Suez Canal rips folder. I don't want to think about it right now. I'll just put it there. Suez color map. Why not? You know what, a better place would be put it in the other color maps folder inside the converted folder. Alright, so now that that's exported, I can now come into here and first let's make sure I got proper UVs. I'll just, yeah, of course it's just a plane. I am going to open an image and go over to that folder, the converted folder that contains it, and then I'll grab it. And then I'm gonna want a material that uses it. So let's just name this terrain. And then I'll go into my shading tab. I kind of wish Blender would keep the same clipping settings between these, but I can understand why they don't. Now that I'm here, I'll go and I'll create a image texture node. I shouldn't need to open, I should just need to select the color map, and then I will plug it in. As you can see, it matches up. As you can see, when it goes up like that, you can see the color change as it's supposed to, and it matches in game pretty closely. I'm going to turn up the roughness a bit so that it's not too shiny. And like I said, I'm only going to go as far as the base map. The rest of it, sorry, the other textures, I'm sure you'll figure out if you know what you're doing with Blender and like just textures and shaders in general. What do I want to do next? I want to show how I know the scaling is proper, and that's by importing some model. Right. So I have BS Mesh View open over here. I'll try to remember to leave a link to that in the description as well. And it basically lets you open bundled mesh or static mesh files inside of 2and42 folders. So let me go to my rips. So on the right side, I have my 2and42 folder, and then on the left side, I have my rips folder. I'm going to go back into BF2and42, and then I'm going to go to objects, because then these aren't level specific. You'll see a lot of repeated assets throughout various 2and42 levels. Now, what usually pertains to maps and levels in 2and42 is static objects. Probably all of these, but I find that what I'm looking for is usually in static objects underscore client. But yeah, they're a bit split between. So I'm going to extract static objects client. All right, so now I have it extracted, and then I'll go into it, and static objects client, there's Africa, buildings, beacon tower. But let me think, what did I want to import? I believe I wanted to import a bridge, the biggest bridge in Suez Canal. So let me go and find that real quick. All right, sorry for that little hiccup. I forgot where I found the big bridge I was looking for. The massive bridge in Suez Canal is located in Suez Canal, static objects client, Africa, unique, BC, big bridge. I'll copy that directory, and then I pasted it in here, and I double clicked it, and it showed up over here. If yours comes in untextured, you have to go into options and then preferences and set the proper texture path. I usually just set it to the folder that contains the textures, and I find that by looking over here under each material, and then it generally tells you the rough location. So then if I went back to static objects client and then I went to textures, I set this one as one of the texture directories over here. I went ahead and I hit add, and then I found it. But yeah, I'm actually not like an expert on that one either, so you'll have to fiddle around with it. Anyways, that won't be that important because you'll basically have to reassign those texture paths or like reconnect textures in Blender anyways. So now that I have it, I'm gonna export it, and it's gonna export it as an OBJ. Sure, I'll just put it in that folder, why not? I haven't messed around with the other UVs. I don't know if they differ from the base UV, but I usually just shove out the base UV. Go ahead and hit export, and then now that I've got the bridge export as an OBJ, I can import it into Blender. Going back to my layout tab, file, import OBJ. Then I could find my, if I could find my folder properly. Like I said, it's in Africa, unique, BC bridge A, meshes. I put it in the same folder as its static mesh. I'll click on that. Then now it's here. You'll notice it's only half of one. That's because it needs to be mirrored. So then I'm going to reassign the origin, and then I'm going to mirror it. And yeah, that's the big bridge. So then now I could bring it down and I could put roughly in place, and you'll see. By the way, while I was doing this, I had 2142 open on the side in a window, so then I was able to compare and align and make sure that this was all proper. You can now see that it lines up roughly where it was. Let me see if I could move the 2142 window over. It doesn't really want to move over. Let me go ahead and highlight it. So you can see that. I usually just grab a Doragon, fly around, do some comparisons whenever I'm messing with the placement of this. I know like the actually pro Battlefield modders will like open BF editor or something. I don't know how they'll handle this, but I do my comparisons this way. As you can see, if I line up with this side of the bridge, you can see like this kind of brown shading part lines up with over there. So then I can do that over here. Roughly like that. And then you'll also notice that to get the height right, you can bring it down close. So I did a lot of trial and error for this when it came to getting it right. Hold on, let me bring up the 2-for-2 view again. Maybe make it smaller. And you'll see that in 2-for-2, let's go up to the bridge. Gets pretty flat over here. And it gets like really close over there. But you'll notice that if I try doing that over here, I may get mixed results. You see that it doesn't rise up in the same fashion. And that's because it all depends on how you are handling your height map and what resolution it's at. So right now, you'll see my subdivision levels. I only have 2. I can crank it up. And the more I crank it up, the more accurate it's going to be to the what you see in game. It's probably a better way to do this, but honestly, I don't remember. Anyways, when I tested earlier, I was able to get more accurate by cranking it up. Oh yeah, don't forget to put it on simple because Catmull Clark will smooth out the edges in probably an undesired way. Oh, right. Okay, so I forgot something that's pretty important. It's really weird, but the color maps for Battlefield maps, for whatever reason, they are flipped on the y-axis, and I don't know why. So in order for us to fix that really easily, I can go into the UV editing for this, and then just press SY, and then -1. Now, it didn't look like anything happened, but it flipped the UV along the y-axis. And then, I don't know, you might have to recalculate normals or something like that. But now that I've, oh no, you only need to do that if you change the mesh. But now that I flip that, you'll see that's more accurate. Because earlier before I did that, you probably would have noticed that the road was all wavy. Hold on, let me undo that. Let's see if I could bring it back. I think it's brought back now. You know what? Let me crank this back down to 2. And then back at UV editing, I'm just going to SY -1 again. So it's flipped back to the way it was originally. You'll know something's wrong because you know that in Suez Canal, the main road that runs through the map is completely flat, and obviously it's not flat here. So then that's a huge tip off that, yeah, the color isn't matching up with the height data. So I'm going to flip the UV again, like I said, SY -1. And then now that I flipped it, you'll see that it's flat. And then there's also the signature dip over here at, I believe it was like C point C silo or something like that that's down here. And you'll notice that this matches up a lot more better now. I thought it was weird that it didn't seem to match up correctly. So yeah, this is going to match up a lot better with the 2-in-for-2 view. Let me go and line that up over here. I don't want to spend too long doing this, but I mean, I guess it's kind of important to the demonstration. Let's go in 2-in-for-2 and see, match up the stain a little more. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like that. But really, you just kind of have to like get good enough for your purposes. Like I said, we're bringing this into Blender, not its original engine or anything. So it's not gonna match 1-to-1, but you can see it gets pretty close now that I've cranked up the resolution some more. And then I modify the height a little bit. You'll see that that little jaggy edge that comes up over here matches up a lot better inside of here. But for my purposes, I don't want this much geo inside of my inside of the map when I use it. If you look in the lower right now it says there's 8 million 8 million triangles. You don't want it that high. So I'm sure that in 2-in-for-2 they got some sort of LODing system going on, so you're not always running at that. But I crank it down to 2 subdivision levels, and that should be good enough for me right now, since I'm just like targeting PCVR for now, and this is really just for test purposes, for gameplay test purposes. But yeah, that should just about cover it. And I hope this is useful to someone. I know it was convoluted. I know I kind of hopped around a bit, but that's about as much time. Honestly, this video took way longer than I expected. I just wanted to film a quick one, and it ended up being close to 40 minutes. Yeah, so sorry if the directories get a little confusing. That's just how it is when you're dealing with like ripping or mod files. There's just so many folders to sift through, and so many different tools, honestly. Well, let me know if you found this useful. Probably like 1 or 2 people ever will find it useful or something like that, but we'll see. Thank you very much. Have a great one.